So with the recent events of the One Punch Man manga, we can begin to understand the direction that the story is going in, leading us to the finale, Saitama vs. God. But wait, hang on a minute, who is God?
I don't know.
Well, today we will explain exactly that, including his powers and how he fits the role of being the final villain of the entire series. We have even brought in a One Punch Man expert for this video, by the way, just for you guys, Zoe. Alright, an expert, can I really say that? Yeah, yes. I like to hype up our friends. I really recommend you guys checking him out for more content. Anyway, let's begin. A theory. An anime theory. Did I really just do that? I just copied MatPat, but you guys... Nobody gives a shit.
Okay, now first, I gotta tell you guys about something super tasty. I can't. I need food. I'm not gonna make it. Oh my god, it's that Sakura themed Tokyo treats and Sakura box. I need... Don't be like this guy. Don't go out searching for your food. Let it find you. Today's sponsor, Tokyo Treats and Sakura, is a monthly subscription service built to satisfy your urge for tasty Japanese snacks. If you want up to 20 of the most exclusive limited edition Japanese snacks that are exclusive to Japan for only a limited amount of time, Tokyo Treats is the one for you. Sakura, on the other hand, is perfect if you fancy up to 20 of the more traditional Japanese snacks, including one special piece of Japanese tableware in your box every month. Sakura also helps by partnering with local Japanese snack makers to continue sharing Japanese culture and traditions that have been passed down for over hundreds of years. Okay, so by using this booklet which they send to you, you can actually see what it is you're eating because, you know, it's all in Japanese. So here I've got Fanta Yogurt Rush White and Yellow Peach. Ooh, now that smells fresh. My goodness, that is delicious. And then from Sakura, we've got this really interesting looking apple cookie. That is delicious. Oh my goodness. Now the best bit is if you use code ABD, you get $5 off your first Sakura box or Tokyo Treat box. All you gotta do is click the link in the description and pinned comment and order by March 31st to make sure you receive this month's box. Now whilst you enjoy the rest of this video, I'm gonna enjoy myself some more snacks.
Welcome back everyone, and it's time to go balls deep. We've witnessed some really weird monsters in One Punch Man, let's face it. However, we've never encountered anything in the series that is as enigmatic as the God. According to the ancient mural found underground in the Monster Association base, crossing the vast expanse of time, our God shall resurrect on this earth, when on this altar a worthy sacrifice is offered. It shows a large humanoid being with a spiral-like body, hinting towards its overwhelming strength. We were first introduced to this godly being in chapter 109 of the One Punch Man manga during Homeless Emperor's flashback. Homeless Emperor explained that he was a normal human that was sick and tired of living in this cruel world. After losing his job and livelihood due to the vile act of society, and thus he decided to commit suicide in hopes of becoming one with Mother Earth. But wait, that's when he got to meet God. Here, God was a humanoid shape but was made out of swirling hair. It said to Homeless Emperor that he was right, that humans are fools. However, God emphasized that he didn't have to die. Instead, it blessed the Homeless Emperor with powers to deal with humans, instantly making him a dragon level threat, telling him, I will grant you power. What to do with this power, you should know. Which is what made Homeless Emperor begin this war against the heroes by joining the Monster Association. God obviously knew the story of the Homeless Emperor, that he grew resentment of others due to his circumstances, where he lost his job because of his boss and hated human society, resulting in, of course, negative intentions, thus aligning with God's ultimate goal. From God's multiple multiple interaction with characters, we can tell that he has some sort of omniscience or power which would allow him to have this type of knowledge on them. He has also appeared in completely different forms every single time. When Saitama, Flashy Flash and Monaco were underground, they peeped into a pitch black hole where the god was sitting. Here it appeared to be a large humanoid creature. It was so huge that it was almost impossible to understand the size of this hole, as the light coming from it barely lit up even the tiniest part of God's head. It even looks like the hole was not on Earth and seemed to reside in another galaxy at that moment. But since it was pitch black, the three couldn't see it. Psychos and Orochi, on the other hand, saw God as a massive planet-esque being that looked like brain cells and the structure of the universe with a surface like the planet Jupiter. Later in the manga, some of the horrors revolving around this being's appearance were made known to us. We got to see the God stand up on the moon and face the earth as if it was observing the incidents occurring on the planet. This is a huge parallel between the cover page of chapter 110 of Saitama, who is standing on the moon during a solar eclipse. We can even see the crater that he left behind from the fight with Boros. The difference this time is that Saitama is the light shining onto the otherwise pitch black moon, revealing what looks like a very similar surface to some of the appearances we have seen from God. It's some of the subtle foreshadowing like this that builds up the fact that Saitama and God will 100% fight in the end of One Punch Man. Anyways, we get a clearer image of this God when it appears in front of the homeless emperor to snatch his life and power before too much about his identity is revealed to Zombie Man. Here it appears in a beautiful green garden as a huge titan-like being made out of something that would, to be honest, it would trigger my trypophobia. Trypophobia? I can't even pronounce that word, but I got that shit. But when I look at this guy, I'm like, The most recent appearance of God came in the form of Blast in chapter 156 of the manga. It tried to fool Tatsumaki into believing that Blast had come to help her, again letting us know that this god creature has knowledge and understands the origin of most heroes. However, the real Blast appears and Tatsumaki manages to see through this, forcing God to retreat before too much of the truth is revealed. Now let's pause the video for a moment. Okay, so what have we gathered so far? God can manifest as a humanoid entity using wind, become a planet-esque being, a giant humanoid creature hiding in a pit that is potentially in another dimension, become Ultraman and stare at you from the moon, or just adopt the appearance of someone you know. God seems to change its appearance according to whoever it is talking to, appeasing to their desires and wishes, so that ultimately his plan can be fulfilled. But that's the major question again. What is God's power and his plan with them? Well, let me explain that. From what we know so far, God has a few powers. The first is giving powers to beings. God has blessed many characters so far, namely Homeless Emperor, Orochi, Psychos, Evil Ocean Water, Sage Serpent, and even monsters like the Vaccine Man. Most of these monsters believe that they were born to serve a greater purpose. Vaccine Man said that he was born from the pollution and destruction humans caused to the earth. He also said that he was nature's wrath and had come to exterminate humanity and effectively vaccinate the planet. Homeless Emperor also stated that his goal was to exterminate all of humanity because humans interrupted the natural flow of the world. The power God gave him took him from a completely normal human into a dragon level threat capable of creating beams of light which caused insane damage, leaving behind a trail of destruction. So imagine being an ordinary human who's even weaker than a C-rank hero like Moomin Rider, but God came along giving a slight bit of his power and you instantly became S-rank. Homeless Emperor became so strong that even Black Sperm was shocked by what he was capable of. However, it should be noted that the Homeless Emperor mentioned that being outside under the open sky allowed him to go all out without the fear of collapse, suggesting that being under the moonlight where God resided gave him access to a never-ending extreme of God's power. Sage Serpent continued this theme, since it considers humans as a race that tries to oppose God and calls himself the incarnation of Father Earth, whilst calling evil natural water the incarnation of Mother Sea. These two both also reached sizes so large that it was hardly comprehensible. Metalbat mentioned that it would take a large amount of S-Class heroes to all attack simultaneously to defeat Sage Centipede. From these multiple instances, it's apparent that God makes these monsters believe that he's choosing them to serve a greater purpose, which isn't necessarily true, since we don't know if this God being is even a god or not. The abilities he gives them are no laughing matter either. Psychos fused with King Orochi after gaining power from God and was able to shoot beams of light that could cut the clouds and cause large-scale tsunamis, which covered such a big portion of the planet that the shockwave could even be viewed from space. With this new power of hers, the battle between Tatsumaki and Psychos reached such a drastic level that it was described as looking like the end of the world. That is why God being the final villain is perfect, as he has been responsible for the events of the story right from the beginning. He would perfectly bookend the entire series. This brings us to answering the next question regarding God's ultimate goal in One Punch Man. It's all connected to these mysterious cubes. These cubes have appeared throughout time on Earth. We see in Tatsumaki's flashback 18 years ago that Blast possessed one of them. We also see on the cover page for chapter 139 that one has been discovered in space and one in the ocean. We can see in volume 23 table of contents what looks to be yet another cube amongst many ancient Egyptian artifacts. When someone places a hand on these cubes, they can ask for a wish. For example, how powerful they want to be. God has its own scale to measure a person, and if the person is worthy, they're bestowed with immense power, enough to instantly make them a dragon level threat. However, if the person isn't worthy of the power, they have to face God's forfeiture. This forfeiture refers to death, as God also has the power to take back the power he bestows, resulting in the person's body melting away. Aside from that, God can also use the cubes to talk to the person holding it using telepathy. It seems like this God understands his subjects deeply and even knows their past, as we mentioned. This is why it approaches them in the form of a being or object they seem to love or respect, and is usually able to manipulate human beings into accepting his power. While we're only aware of the powers mentioned so far, God is still a massive threat to humanity. It is said that Blast doesn't associate himself with anything unless it poses a serious threat to humanity, and he's spending all of his time trying to find these cubes. But what is the intention behind God's actions? While we've never heard this God openly state what it wants, we can make a pretty solid speculation using the information we have. To answer this question regarding the huge connection with the mysterious cubes that Blast is collecting, we have Zonin to take it away. Go on, my friend. Go on, brother. Take it away. Okay, that's kind of cringe.
Hello ABD viewers, today I'm going to be educating you on some deep-cut One Punch Man lore theory surrounding God and the cubes. And to understand these things, we first must understand what they are based off of, and that is the myth of Osiris. Because our buddy God, who we've been talking about in this video, is based off of the Egyptian god Osiris, who is the god of the moon. Also, fun little fact, our own moon has a crater named Osiris. Of course, this parallels to the crater that was made by Saitama and Boros in the actual series, but anyway, in the myth, which has many versions of it by the way, Osiris's brother Set conspired with 72 other accomplices and wound up tricking Osiris to get into a box, which they cut up into many pieces and threw into the Nile. Later on, Osiris was eventually found by his wife Isis embedded in a tamarisk tree husk. Isis would later go on to make replicas of these pieces and distribute them to several locations. Became the centers of worship for Osiris. Okay, history lesson over. So we actually see what I just said in the series, not only in the manga's continuity, but also the webcomic. So in chapter 119 of the webcomic, One, the writer of the story, cleverly disguises the origin of God as a throwaway, gaggy cold open to this chapter. So Saitama randomly runs into these guys calling themselves the Saints, And they go on to explain the history of their mission to Saitama, saying, according to legend, a colossal dragon descended upon Earth and became the embodiment of destruction. In just a few days, it took countless lives and scorched large swaths of land. As a result of its overwhelming cruelty, it became known as the Cruel Dragon. This cruel dragon right here, that's our boy God. Ancient soldiers gathered together and with a great many sacrifices managed to weaken the cruel dragon. Seal Master separated the essence of the dragon using the 9 seal stones and sealed them in 9 temples scattered across the land. What do we see here? It's the cubes. Now, they're not literally the cubes that we see in the manga, but like I said, this is all just cleverly disguised as what the truth actually is. And now you might be thinking, wait, that sounds just like what you were talking about in the beginning. Well, that's because it is. Because like I said, this is the myth of Osiris. And just like how Osiris himself was tricked by Set and 72 other accomplices to be put into a box that was cut into pieces and thrown into the Nile, God seemingly has suffered a similar fate. Now, as for them being scattered to temples across the land, this of course goes back to what Isis did with replicating the pieces of Osiris to put in temples that would become places of his worship. We see this quite literally happening in One Punch Man as well. As we already saw in the volume 23 table of contents, there is a cube at the bottom of the Monster Association along with Egyptian artifacts, which goes back to Myth of Osiris, but this is implied to be the very same cube that Saitama, Flashy Flash, and Monaka discover. We also mentioned how Blast had a cube in his hand when he was rescuing Tatsumaki from that Esper testing facility. Well, I'm pretty sure that's why Blast was going there in the first place, because they had a cube, and you know, Blast wants that. Now, another possible cube location is the Ninja Village, the place where Flashy Flash and Sonic come from. Now, we don't directly see a cube in that location as of yet, but we do know that Blast not only fought the ninja leader, but according to Sonic's flashback, he showed up there one day and took out all of the ninja recruits. It's very likely this is all because the ninja leader made a deal with God, and that's how he became as powerful as he is, and I assume Blast showed up there later on to retrieve the cube that he wasn't able to get before. And the smoking gun is the ninja village itself looks like a freaking cube. Also, that Esper testing facility place looks like a cube too. Not a coincidence. These are Osiris's temples of worship, aka God's recruitment facilities, I guess you could say. Yeah, that's a whole lot to take in, I know, but if you would like to get way more in-depth information on this, please check out my playlist dedicated to all of this stuff. Maybe they'll have a link in the description.
So make sure to check out Zonin in the description below. Now, one could take a wild guess and say that the god's power was sealed into those cubes, and he uses them to give powers to people and find a worthy sacrifice. This would explain why they are so goddamn heavy, because as we saw, them being dropped from a small height was enough to shatter the ground beneath Saitama. God is so powerful that even just a fraction of his power being contained in these cubes can cause damage. It is apparent that Saitama is the only human who could ever defeat this being. And God isn't even aware of Saitama's seemingly boundless strength, as it focuses on trying to grant powers to Tatsumaki instead of Saitama, who is a far bigger threat. To me, this higher goal that God is hoping for is connected to Blast. From chapter 156 of the manga, we know that Blast knows other heroes too. These heroes belong to another planet or another galaxy. From the looks of it, those heroes or beings, whatever you want to call them, are close to Blast in terms of power. Since Blast can travel through dimensions, there's a decent chance that it's an alternate or parallel dimension. Anyways, my point is that Blast is in a war with this god, as he's trying to get rid of these cubes, which are essential for God's resurrection. There's significant evidence that the monster-human conflict itself was made by this god. I mean, take a look. God can turn people into monsters, and there are certain patterns that we can notice which are suspicious. During the starting arcs of the story, demon and dragon level monsters would appear once in a while only. However, there was a sudden rise in the number of monsters who were demon and dragon level threats, causing a severe shortage of heroes in the world. As we can see from the webcomic, Adam and Eve stated that humans are weak, but humans adapt to the environment the best. Therefore, Saitama can be an individual that unlocked the limits of humans and adapted to the new world and era that was created. Saitama eventually defeating God in the ending of One Punch Man is the equivalent of killing the serpent in the Garden of Eden, resulting in the eradication of the evil monsters that terrify the world. Think about it. God must have blessed someone with the ability to make these monster cells and provide them to King Orochi as a means of exterminating humanity. While all people who ingest this cell don't become extremely strong monsters, they do receive a significant boost in their powers. Blast definitely knows more about God than what he shows, and it could be related to God's true goal. For what we know, this god could be a powerful celestial being that is trying to destroy the whole galaxy, or is trying to become an actual god, craving for more. In conclusion, the final arc of One Punch Man most definitely involves Saitama facing this being, as it ties into every theme and story element that we have been told so far. This would also make One Punch Man more appealing to a wider audience, as it would parody even further the aspects of hero stories we have seen so far, from the likes of Avengers, Endgame, and much more. If they continue the storyline regarding Blast having an Avengers-like system with heroes from other galaxies that they are trying to stop this big bad guy that no one apparently knows about, that makes a lot of sense. God's priority is to resurrect itself, whilst Blast is to not let that happen, and the two are aware of each other's presence, and they are somehow tied in this for sure. You should go now watch our King video where we explain his power and the truth behind his whole story. Go, go, go. Goodbye.